Drink this 1 cup every single day, and it's going to support amazing liver health. I promise. The research I have for you is really cool. So let's dive in, because I want to explain to you why something as simple as 1 cup of this particular thing can really benefit you. First, we have to just talk about what the liver does, because it is the hardest working organ in our body. So it detoxes us. Hopefully you know that. Think of the liver like it's a filter. It's got a really complicated way of detoxing our bodies, but it's like every toxin that comes in is going to have to be filtered through the liver. So gosh, if you're eating a lot of toxins, exposed to a lot of toxins, your liver's working really, really hard. So that's the first thing. Second thing, and I think this is not really talked about enough. Did you know that your liver is actually a fat? It's where your body burns fat. It's a fat burning organ, which is why when you drink alcohol, you can't burn fat. So if you haven't heard that, when you are drinking alcohol, when alcohol is in your system, your liver has a priority, and that priority is to break down that alcohol so it can get it out of your system so it doesn't damage or poison your brain primarily. So while it's doing that, it's not burning fat. But normally it is a fat burning organ. And remember, it does that because when you metabolically switch over into this place of the ketogenic energy system, your brilliant liver figures it out and goes and starts to break down fat and make ketones that then go up into the brain and can nourish the brain. So we love the liver for its fat burning capabilities. Number 3, another really important concept, which is that it breaks protein down. So protein, you're going to keep hearing me talk about this. That protein, when broken down, fills into a bunch of amino acids, and those amino acids make neurochemicals in your body. They make neurotransmitters, they make hormones. You need amino acids for your complete neurochemical system. For my menopausal women and the perimenopausal women, if we are not getting enough amino acids, then what can happen is that you start to see deficits and declines in your hormones that are faster and greater than they need to be for your age. So we really have to focus in on protein and eating protein, but it's the liver that breaks it down. So we've got to make sure our liver's healthy, which is why I want you drinking this 1 cup. Don't worry, I'm getting there. Okay. Number 4 thing that the liver does that's really important that we talk about it is that it makes cholesterol. So cholesterol is not bad. You need cholesterol to nourish the brain. So it is the liver that makes cholesterol, but where this shows up a lot for a lot of you is when you start to fast or you start to heal your body through food variation and fasting variations, is that your cholesterol goes up. And then you walk into your doctor's office and your doctor is like, wait a second, your cholesterol is high. And you say, well, I've been fasting. And your doctor goes, oh, you got to stop. No, if your cholesterol is going up with either the ketogenic diet or with fasting, it means that your liver and the common bile duct and the gallbladder and all the little pieces that go with the liver may be congested. And you might want to drink this 1 cup of what I'm about to tell you. Last one. Number 5 is it primes the metabolic switch. So we need the liver to be able to get you to metabolically switch. So I hear a lot of you tell me, I'm doing everything, Dr. Mindy, I'm doing everything you told me to do, and I'm not getting in ketosis. Okay, that's a liver issue. That is a major liver issue. Let's try drinking a cup of this and see if we can support the liver to be able to allow you to metabolically switch quicker. Ready? Your 1 cup. Hopefully some of you have noticed that this is sitting in front of me. This is kraut juice. Now, this is just my local one that I can get. Kraut juice is obviously the juice that comes off of making sauerkraut, but it's packed with antioxidants. It's packed with probiotics. It's incredible for gut repair. There are so many reasons why we want to make sure that we're having a cup of this a day. And so it's not horribly bad. I'm trying to give you guys like the real, it's good, it's not great. for my taste buds. I try to have a cup of it a day. It's not like I'm like, whoo, it's 3 o'clock, I should go have some sauerkraut juice, but I know how good it is for my liver, so I make sure that I have it. So here's a couple things you need to know about your daily sauerkraut juice that you're all gonna do after watching this video, right? So the first is that the cabbage matters. So sauerkraut is fermented cabbage in many cases. So red cabbage in particular is high in sulforaphane, okay? Sulforaphane is super important for your liver because it will, when you are, and sulforaphane can be found a lot in broccoli. I don't think we want to try broccoli juice. I mean, maybe you could throw some broccoli in a smoothie, but I don't think, I'll take kraut juice over broccoli juice any day. But when we are taking in a daily amount of sulforaphane, it not only improves our liver enzymes, so it brings those liver enzymes up, and the liver enzymes are so important for, again, breaking down toxins. It lowers inflammation down in the liver, so if you're like, oh, I just haven't been really kind to my liver, maybe you have a history of alcoholism, maybe you've been on medications for a long time, then, we want to bring inflammation down, we want to get those liver enzymes balanced, and we want to use sulforaphane through our daily cup of sauerkraut juice to help with detoxification. Now, I'm going to leave the research in here on the red cabbage, this is obviously not red cabbage, this is a golden beet kvass. But, these probiotic tonics, they're often called kvasses, or you can just make sauerkraut at home and drink the juice. But what I want you to know is that if you're going to do red cabbage, what they have found that it's about 600 milliliters, which I went and looked up is about 2.5 cups. So you might, if you're really trying to support your liver, you might try doing a little bit more. Now, those of you, here are some areas where I would tell you to do a little more, would be like past abuse of the liver. You're really trying to accelerate weight loss, and you need that liver to help you burn fat. Your cholesterol is going up despite your healthy lifestyle. Or maybe you went on a little bit of a binger with your vacation and you need to support a healthy liver. Or maybe you just went on a whole bunch of medication or was in a surgery or something where you need some liver health. Or maybe you're not getting enough ketones. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why based off of what I told you in the beginning. Then let's dial this in. Let's do 2.5 cups of red cabbage juice. Okay, the second reason that you would want to do some kind of kraut juice every single day is because they're good in probiotics. Yay! Okay, I hope you all know that there was a trend of taking probiotic, and we took them over and over and over again, and then what we discovered was that when we take the same probiotic over and over and over again, it creates a monoculture. And that monoculture means that you get like maybe 30 of those bacteria that are really growing strong, but the other thousands are falling apart and not being fed. So we want diversity when it comes to our gut health. And so if you were to go into my refrigerator right now, I have many versions of this. In fact, I had one I almost brought you, and it's a kimchi kraut juice, and it's in there. It's spicy. It might be like something that I have at night instead of like a Bloody Mary, or maybe in the morning. It'll have that same kind of spice profile to it. But what's really cool about kimchi is that not only are you getting the benefits of the probiotic that will help the gut, but kimchi has some vegetables in it that actually support good immunity. So we're not only getting a good amount of support for the liver, but we're also getting a good amount of support for being able to support healthy immunity, which is hopefully still super important for everybody out there. And the last thing I want to tell you about kraut juice, and why I chose to really talk about it in conjunction with the liver, is that there's this really interesting mechanism where your gut bacteria talk to your liver, and the two of them are on your blood sugar team. They're the ones that are telling you how to regulate your blood sugar. So if your gut goes off, if it goes south because you ate, you've been eating really poorly, maybe you've been under a lot of stress, maybe you went on a bunch of antibiotics, maybe you're on birth control and it's really hard to get that population of microbes to really get robust. If you're deficient in good microbes in the gut, then there's no good microbes to talk to the liver and say, hey, liver, a meal just came in. We're going to need to take this blood sugar. We're going to need to balance it. We're going to bring it down as quickly as possible. And then after you bring it down, liver, I'm going to want you to kick over into ketosis and start to give me some ketones, because the brain and the cells, everything in your body needs both glucose and ketones. And it is the gut that is going to signal that to the liver. It is like the command center, or maybe we could look at it as the older sibling to the liver, telling the liver what to do. So we need to take good, amazing care of our gut microbiome. And when I look at all the incredible things that we can do to support this miraculous organ, I'm like, this is easy. I don't care if it tastes just okay. But it's the theme here, and what I'm hoping you're getting, is that we've overcomplicated health. We got to bring food back into the equation. So I love fasting because it's this healing state that helps us take a break from all the toxic food that's out there. But then when we bring food back in, we really, really have to be sensitive to the fact that food can heal too. And there's so many reasons why we want to bring more fermented foods back in. But when we look at the power of the liver and how we need to support the liver, it's really, really important that we are feeding it something like a cup of sauerkraut juice every single day. So, and I know a lot of you are going to ask me, can I have it in my fasting window? Maybe. Test it with your own blood sugar. I needed to do one whole video on what you can do to cleanse your liver so that you get a better result with fasting. So I decided that what we would do is I would break down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different aspects of the liver that will help you get control of your liver health and help you love on this liver so that you can ultimately get the desire you're looking for with fasting. If your poor liver has been toxified like this guy all the time, you're going to struggle to get into ketosis. You're going to struggle to lose weight. So, and then you start fasting and you go, oh, fasting doesn't work for me. Fasting works for everybody, I promise you. If it's not working for you, then we need to start to look at something as basic as liver function. So let's start with this idea. What does your liver do? Next to the brain and the nervous system, it is the hardest working organ in your body. So not only does it detoxify, but it breaks down hormones, it makes cholesterol, it breaks down protein, it stores vitamins and minerals, and it burns energy for fat. So you are going to want, and which also happens through ketosis, by the way, if you want any of those benefits, you're going to want to listen to what I have to say. Second thing I want you to know is that the liver doesn't work by itself. It has a team. And its team is made up of the gallbladder, the common bile duct, and your small intestine. So as I go through some of these hacks, you're going to see that I bring in the common bile duct, I bring in the small intestine. Organs don't work in silos. They've got to be able to commune with other organs to be able to magnify everybody's function. And if you've had a gallbladder removed, there's even more stress on your liver. If you have a congested common bile duct, you may see that the cholesterol goes up, especially as you add more good fat in. And if you have anything like SIBO in the small intestine where there's some dysbiosis, you might start to see that you end up feeling more constipated, more bloated, as you start to learn how to fast. So we need to keep this team in mind. Okay, having said that, how would we know if your liver needs help? If you're listening to this and you're like, okay, this sounds like it might be me, let's dial it in and see if it's really you. So the first is, just because you make a hormone doesn't mean you break the hormone down and make it usable for your cells. That is the job of your liver and your gut. So if you're having trouble balancing hormones, especially for the women, and you know that you're producing enough of a hormone, I want you to start to remember that it's the liver's job to begin the breakdown of the hormone. This happens a lot with estrogen, especially going through menopause, where you might be on HRT, you might be on bioidenticals, but you're not really feeling the changes that should come with those medications. Well, maybe your liver isn't breaking down that hormone. The second thing, how many of you have gone on to a ketogenic diet and all of a sudden your cholesterol goes up? Or you try fasting and your cholesterol goes up? Well, when we start to clean our diet up and we see that cholesterol goes up, that can be the sign of a congested liver. Those of you with SIBO, when you eat something and you get bloated, especially fibery things like a salad, that can be a sign your liver needs help. If you're struggling with weight loss, you're struggling with getting into ketosis, these all need a healthy liver to be able to do that work, to get you into ketosis and to be able to burn fat. And the last one that I want to talk about that I don't think gets enough attention is if you have a sensitivity to a food, whether it's a food allergy or if you have a sensitivity like smells, you're super triggered by smells, a lot of times that can be that your liver is working so hard it's hit its toxic load and it needs you to work on loving on it and opening it up and giving it the environment that it needs to be able to do all of these amazing things that we talked about in the beginning of this video. Now, I do want to point out, if you're like listening to this and you're like, I might have some liver issues, I'm not sure, that there are some incredible tests that will help you understand your liver function. Of course, a CBC, AST, ALT, bilirubin, all of those alkaline phosphatase, they're all indications of liver function. Just make sure when you get your full blood analysis that you're having it read by a functional doctor, not a doctor who's only looking for pathology. Because when we want to look at liver function, we need to know the functionality of that liver, not if it's in a disease state. Okay, having said all of that, let's talk about how we get your liver doing better. So I want to start with this idea. The easiest thing to do with improving liver health is to stop the influx of toxins. Toxins to the liver can come in the form of alcohol. Toxins to the liver can come in the form of medications. It can also be environmental toxins, sometimes even something as simple as an overaccumulation of BPA plastics. When your toxic load gets up, your liver has to work triple time. So if you know you're struggling with liver function, let's just stop the influx of toxins. We also can lean into foods that feed our liver. So this is easy. It's specifically the cruciferous foods like the Brussels sprouts and the broccoli and the cauliflowers. It's also the bitter foods like radicchio is my favorite, or dandelion greens or endive. That bitter tasting greens is really helpful and nourishing to the liver. So start pulling out the things that are toxifying it and nourishing the liver so it can do the job it was meant to do. Coffee enema. As crazy as it sounds to do a coffee enema, I have seen literally miracles in hormones and weight loss when people dive in to learning how to do coffee enemas. I have a ton of information on coffee enemas on my website. You can go there and take a look. And then we have some supplement protocols. So I'm going to show you my favorite supplement protocol that I use with my patients. If you know that you've got some liver challenges, I highly recommend that you go and get yourself a metabolic clearing kit. I give you things you can do for free. I give you things that will cost a little more money. I give you the easy stuff. I give you some hard stuff like coffee enemas, but the liver is key to fasting. As you can see, there's a lot to it, so much to it, that I can't just say, oh, you're not getting into ketosis, you're struggling with fasting, must be your liver, do this. We've really got to help you start to break down why that potentially may be happening. The fatty liver disease builds, and it takes 10, 20, 30 years for it to hit its peak where you actually have to do something about it. So I'm going to break this all down. I'm going to talk about what fatty liver is. I'm going to talk about signs that will give you an indication that you may be building it. And most importantly, I'm going to talk about what you can do about it. And when we look at some of the statistics on fatty liver, it's pretty startling how many people are dealing with fatty liver disease. Okay, here's the deal. We have 25% of the world's population has a fatty liver problem. The first question I want you to think of whenever you see a big statistic like this is, what is the world doing? What is everybody doing that's contributing to fatty liver disease? And here's the thing, is it's diet. It's all in the quality of our food. So fatty liver disease can happen from too much sugar, it can happen from too much alcohol, and it can happen from too many bad fats. So make sure that you're bringing your sugar load down, you're bringing your alcohol level down, and you know the difference between a good fat and a bad fat. I am a huge fan of good fats. I think we should be powering up on good fats. I am not a fan of bad fats. So if you are eating a lot of inflammatory oils, please, let's look at that as also being a culprit of fatty liver disease. Now, how do you know you have it? Because here's the thing about a progression of a disease, is that when a disease starts, it doesn't always give you big red flag signs. Sometimes disease starts slowly building and you have no idea. So here are some of the ways you know that a fatty liver is building in your body. So first, your blood glucose goes up. So this might look like you're looking at your meter in the morning, or you're wearing a CGM and you're like scratching your head and you're like, why is my blood sugar not going down? We also see it in other metabolic markers. We see it in hemoglobin A1C. You want your hemoglobin A1C on a traditional blood test to be 5 or below. If your hemoglobin A1C is higher than that, there's a chance you're building fatty liver disease. We also know that when CRP goes up, when total cholesterol, LDLs go up, triglycerides go up, those are all signs that we are starting to build fat around the liver. Now remember that fat is where your body stores excess. So it doesn't matter if it's around your belly, back of your arms, on your hips, or in your liver, that fat is where the body is going to go put extra storage, extra stuff. So fatty liver is just extra storage of all those sugar, all the toxins, all the alcohol, all that gets stored there. The crazy thing about a fatty liver, by the way, is that you may not see it in the mirror. You might be skinny. We call that skinny fat, where you like look in the mirror and you're like, I can eat anything I want. I look amazing. But in reality, your high sugar, high fat, high alcohol, high toxin diet is getting stored around your liver. And you will see that on a blood test. So second thing I want you to think about with fatty liver disease and how you would know you have it is we start to see people getting pain in the upper right corner of their abdomen. This is where your liver lives. So if you're all of a sudden getting mystery pain up there, go get a blood test and look at those markers I just talked about. Okay, the other way that you would know that you've got some fat accumulating around this liver is when you are fasting and you're not seeing your blood sugar come down. Okay, this is a big one because I know a lot of you have this issue where the blood sugar is not coming down and you're like, I'm doing everything I possibly can. Well, that could be because the liver is congested. Your past behaviors from years ago has the liver not really working out the way, or working the way that you want it. So when the blood sugar is not coming down, that's a sign. Another sign, I know you guys ask me this a lot, is if you're having trouble getting into ketosis. It could be a sign that that liver is just stagnant. It's got too much fat around it, too many toxins. So you're going to want to fast more, because fasting will start to wring those toxins, wring that sugar out of the liver. Another thing is detox reactions. So those of you, when you go and you start to do the ketogenic diet, when you start to fast, if you're getting strong detox reactions, brain fog, rashes, constipation, that can be a fatty liver, a sign of a fatty liver. And then the last sign, and I'm going to throw this out there to the women, is that if you run a Dutch test, which is my favorite hormone test, it will show you if your liver is metabolizing hormones or not. Remember that the metabolizing of hormones is breaking those hormones down, and that happens in the liver. And sometimes, especially as we go through perimenopause and menopause, we don't even realize that our diet, our alcohol consumption is affecting how the liver could be breaking down these hormones. A great test, the Dutch test, is my favorite test. I think every woman should get a Dutch test every year, and you'll be able to see if the liver is supporting hormonal health or not. Okay, here's the most important thing. What can you do about it? There are quick fixes and there are long-term fixes. So here are my quick fixes. Ready? This is my quick fix. It's my quick fix for so many things is fasting. When you go in and out of the longer fasts, these are your 17-hour, 24, 36, 48, 72, those longer fasts, you're putting some stress on the liver and forcing that liver to release some of the fat. You're forcing it to let go of some of that sugar. So let's do the fasting variation I've been teaching you here on this channel. Okay, second thing that is a quick fix is get off all of the processed carbs. Go into only nature's carbs. These are your squashes and potatoes and fruits. Those can be amazing. So that's kind of like today. You can do that today. So remember, undoing the damage that you did decades ago is not impossible. This is why I'm here preaching fasting to you. It's not impossible, but it takes consistency, which is why we want to make sure that you're going in and out of those fasts. Okay. Now, what about a little like great treatments? Like if you and I were sitting in a consultation and you're like, yeah, I have everything that you just mentioned that is possibly causing a fatty liver, a sign of a fatty liver, and we were sitting there, you were on the other side of this desk, here's what I'd say. First thing, this is one of my favorite, this is a little bit of a quick fix too. Restore Hope Oils. There is a blend of Live Better and Pure Regen. We know that high quality essential oils rubbed over the liver can start to heal the liver and let the liver release that extra sugar. Second thing, I'll tell you, this is my favorite supplement protocol to start to heal that liver and get it metabolically working for you again. It's called the Metabolic Clearing Kit. It's got great information in there. It is literally a kit that you can implement right away. The liver, it's a big issue when we come to fasting. So remember that if you're not getting the fasting result you want, it's possible that it's something as nuanced as we need to heal your liver more. We need to love on your liver more so that the liver can produce ketones and the liver can really shine with your fasting lifestyle. Why giving up grains for 14 days literally could be the game changer for weight loss, for energy, for mental clarity, for sleeping better, you name it. I'm going to show you why grains may be that thing that's just not working for you. So let's dive in. Okay, first, I've been dying to say this. I cannot believe I've done, like 1,500 videos here on YouTube before I've actually said this. We have to stop looking at grains, meaning breads and pastas, in one category of food. If you think about the way I've taught you all, when I talk about carbohydrates, I always say there's good carbs and there's bad carbs. There's processed carbs and there's nature's carbs. This is how, when we talk about fats, I do the same thing. Good fats, bad fats. Healthy fats, inflammatory fats. We can't just bulk everything together in the same category and say that is bad. So when I'm talking about grains, there are good grains and there are bad grains. And the grains I want you to give up for 14 days are the bad grains. And I'm going to tell you what those are. And you're going to be very excited to know about the good grains and what makes up a good grain. I'm going to explain that to you. But before we even go into it, we have to have this vernacular already in discussion so that you understand what I'm talking about. And I'll even say, just a note to you all, I know everybody loves absolutes. Anytime you're looking for an absolute, like the human body should eat this way, everybody should fast this way, everybody should exercise this way, everybody should take this supplement, now you've lost your way with your health. This is about personalizing your health. That is so important to me, that you take this information and you test it. This is why I'm saying try this for 14 days. What is the difference between a good grain and a bad grain? So a bad grain is a highly processed grain. So this would be, I'm just going to use like the most common one that a lot of people eat is like your highly processed white bread. Now, I'm not talking about sourdough. That's a whole nother discussion, but I'm talking about like a white bread or even a highly processed whole wheat bread. Doesn't matter if it's organic or not. If it has been highly processed, it typically doesn't have enough fiber. What that means is with less fiber, it's going to spike your blood sugar. So we need fiber in all the foods we eat as much as possible to be able to keep our blood sugar working and keep it stable. So how would you know if something's a processed grain? Well, let's go read the ingredients and look at how much fiber is on there. How much fiber is on that list? I think it's a really good question to ask yourself. And then the second thing would be look at the ingredients. Are there a lot of chemicals in there? Read them out loud. If you can't pronounce them, they're probably a chemical. So let's look at like what the quality of that processed grain is. On the flip side, a really healthy grain, what it has, or how you would know it's healthy, is there are some buzzwords. So for starters, I just told you, low fiber means a processed grain. High fiber means it's probably not going to spike your blood sugar. It's probably not a processed grain. So, but when we look at these healthy grains, they have some qualities and characteristics to them. So one of the things is they're nuttier. They're more sprouted. They're more dense. They take longer to chew. This one, the unhealthy grain, you chew it and it disappears in your mouth. This one, the healthy grain, what ends up happening is you chew it and it takes time to chew. So, and that's largely because it's got so many enzymes in that bread and fiber that it just takes time for you to break it down and move it into your digestive system. That is really good. So sprouted is a key word you can find. Anything sprouted typically has those enzymes. It has those qualities in it. So the other thing you can look at over here, and this is my favorite one, is any bread that is fermented. If a bread has been fermented, that means that in the fermented process, there have been enzymes and probiotics that have come to the surface that will help you digest that bread. Sourdough is a great example of this. Now, homemade sourdough, amazing. That's your best bet. But, let's get if you can get an organic, local's really good, not like these big bread makers. We want like the smaller guy, perhaps, that is taking a little more of an artisan approach to a sourdough, and make sure that it's truly a sourdough bread. It should be sour in your mouth. The more sour, the more fermented it is. So the more enzymes it will have. So this is why we've got these two different ways of looking at grains. Now, I want to come back over here and just say that this highly refined bad grain is going to spike your blood sugar. It's going to make you more hungry. It's going to create more inflammation. It's going to make you gain weight. I mean, the list is long. You come over here to the healthy grains. This is going to actually, I don't fear a carbohydrate. I hope you all know that. I love going low carb the way I explained it in Fast Like a Girl for certain parts of our cycle. And I eat carbs a lot when I'm trying to raise progesterone. When I had a cycle, I would put it in the back half of the cycle and I would eat bread. Why would you want to eat these good grains? Well, they can be really good for raising things like serotonin. Believe it or not, we actually know that certain breads can elevate your serotonin levels and make you happier. Try eating a piece of sourdough, really good sourdough bread with some grass-fed butter on it, and let me know a half an hour after you eat it how you feel. It can actually raise serotonin. It also, because of all the enzymes and all of the quality ingredients in it, it can kill hunger. This doesn't kill hunger. So we've got to really, again, separate this out. I know that was a long intro to why I want you to give up grains for 14 days, but I've never had this conversation with you all, and it's really important we have it. So with that in mind, what we're going to give up for 14 days are these processed bad grains. And now it's not just bread. It can be in cookies. It can be in cakes. It can be in pastas. So the more highly refined the grain, the more it's going to cause you to gain weight, the more it's going to affect your hunger, the more it's going to create inflammation, the more energy crashes it's going to give you, the more mood changes you're going to have. So this is what we're giving up for 14 days. Ready? Here's what happens. I promise you, I've got 7 things you're going to see that is going to happen when you give up these bad grains for 14 days. First, you're going to see your blood sugar stabilize. That's great. It's awesome. That means you're going to get off this roller coaster, up, down, up, down. How would you know if your blood sugar wasn't stable? You could obviously get a CGM. I'm a huge fan of the continuous glucose monitors that go on the back of your arms. Phenomenal. Then you can look and see what these grains are doing. But if you don't have the resources to do that, or you don't want to do that, then you know that your blood sugar is unstable when you can't go without food for more than a couple hours. Those of you that are like, I'm hangry, that is because you have a blood sugar system that is on a roller coaster. And one of the ways you get off that roller coaster is by getting off these refined, processed grains. Okay, second thing that will happen to you when you get off this junk over here is that you will repair the gut lining, the inner lining of your gut. Now, why is that? How does a grain affect the inner lining of your gut? Well, depending on where you live in the world, I can tell you here in the United States that most of the highly processed grains that go into breads are sprayed with a chemical called glyphosate. And glyphosate will destroy the inner lining of your gut. So we want to make sure that you don't destroy that inner lining, because if you destroy it, what happens is undigested food, even healthy undigested food, toxins, they go into your bloodstream and they start to create this inflammatory process. So we want to make sure that we protect this gut lining. So you get this processed grains off, get it out of your diet for 14 days, and now all of a sudden you've helped your gut lining. That's cool. That's a really good thing. That's only number 2 good thing. Okay, number 3. You're going to feel inflammation go down. Now, how would you know if you got off grains for 14 days that your inflammation was going down? Well, there's 2 ways that I can tell you right away you'd notice. Your joint mobility. How does it feel to move your arms? How does it feel to sit down and stand up? If you're like, oh, I'm getting old, this is not working for me, that's inflammation. And so when you get off grains, you're going to see that you move around and your joints move with more ease because the inflammation has gone down. Second thing is brain fog. Brain fog is a real chronic sign of chronic inflammation. So if you're one of those people that you're like, what was I doing? Can't really stay on task. That is could because your brain is inflamed, and grains can do that for you. Okay, number 4. Now I've talked about this recently a lot. So if this is a new concept, go back and watch some of my other videos. But what we know is that when cells are inflamed, nutrients can't get in and toxins can't get out. So that's a big problem. So what will happen when you get off grains is now all those supplements you take, all those veggies you eat that you're like, I don't really like them, but I eat them because they're healthy. All those nutrients are going to get into the cell and activate the cell, and the cell is going to work better for you. You're going to notice energy increase. Everything will work better for you. Okay, you'll heal better, you'll think better, you'll move better because the cell got what it needed. Number 5. You're going to get off grains for 14 days. Remember? The bad grains. And this is number 5. You're going to watch your hunger go away. So those of you that are struggling to fast and you're like, my hunger is so prevalent, get off grains for 14 days and then come back and tell me if your hunger went away. I promise you it will, because I saw this in my clinic over and over and over again. Okay, number 6. I've already alluded to this. It's going to decrease joint pain. So those of you in chronic pain, I'm going to ask that you get off every single grain. This includes things like beer, some of the whiskeys, some of those alcohols come from grain. So let's get off that and see if your joints move a lot better. Just try it and see how it works. And then the last one is you're going to notice better sleep. Now, I notice this a lot on my Oura Ring, because I can start to see that my sleep will improve with my HRV goes up, my deep sleep and REM sleep go up. I don't do these kind of processed grains. I will do the healthy grains sometimes. But I can tell you that the more, we've seen this in our Reset Academy group, is that the more processed grains that are eaten, the lower the HRV, which is a stress response, and the worse deep and REM sleep are. So let's see how your sleep goes. Let's see how that works. So that's 7 reasons to give up these bad grains. So let me know if that's helpful, because again, I think we have to separate out the question of bad grains versus good grains. So let's make sure that we're clear on that, and then try it for 14 days. And here's what I'm really going to ask that you do. You watch this video, go try it, come back and report back, put it in the comments. And those of you who've given up grains years ago, again, let's support the people that are going to try this, but might be a little bit like, oh God, I don't know if I can do this. Just give a little love and a little support in the comments so that we can make sure that we're cheering them on, because we are a community here on YouTube. We are meant to cycle our lifestyle with our menstrual cycle. And so we need to know to go high carb and low carb.
Walk people through it. What is that cycle?
Yeah. So what it looks like is when estrogen's building, day 1 through day 10, we go low carb and we do more fasting to keep ourselves insulin sensitive. So that's all her heavy workouts, amazing during that time. We go into ovulation, day 11 through day 15. Now we actually need to bring glucose up a little bit because you have progesterone sitting there. And so progesterone doesn't want you to get glucose too low. And you've got testosterone. So testosterone helps us build muscle. So I love to see women go into more heavy weights at the time, slow, heavy reps, so that we can build testosterone at that moment, so that we are using testosterone in the way that it should be used. After you come out of ovulation, all those hormones crash. You can go into your extreme keto, fasting, working out, but then about day 19, 20, progesterone's coming in and everything has to change. You have to bring carbs up. You got to bring cortisol down. You need to switch your workouts to more recovery, more of yoga, more hiking. You got to say no to more things.
Because of overwhelm?
Yeah, because that's what progesterone demands. Progesterone, so let's go to your wife. In order to make progesterone so that the inner uterine lining sheds so she has a period, that week becomes massively pivotal. And if she doesn't have that, if she's just powering through the same way, that's the week that hooks up women, and that's where they're not getting their cycle. And the number of women not getting a cycle right now is another huge problem, because our cycles are like a detox. It's a shedding of the toxic estrogen. So she could be getting enough estrogen to release an egg, but she doesn't have enough progesterone to shed the uterine lining. And so where's all that estrogen going? It's getting stored in tissues. That's not good. And so many women don't have, 20 and 30, 40-year-olds don't have a cycle. And that's a massive problem.
Wow. It's crazy. What's causing that?
In the most simple sense, it's we're not minding the week before our period. We're not changing
People weren't like forever. Like my mom's generation, they just whatever. Like they didn't even think about it. But they all had their periods.
Your mom and even me, if I look at, I'm 53 and I have a 23-year-old daughter. We have massively different stressors. At my 23, I, went to college, enjoyed myself, had fun. We didn't have a phone. We didn't have social media. Glyphosate wasn't in our environment. We didn't have something that they call generally recognized as safe ingredients. There's hundreds of thousands of ingredients in our foods that are toxic. We didn't put on all these beauty products that were destroying our endocrine system. I look at my 23-year-old daughter and I feel, in a sense, very sad about the world that she's growing up in compared to what I grew up in. I look at my 83-year-old mom, and she's never had a hormonal problem because life was so much more simple. We are in an evolutionary mismatch, women are right now, with this modern world, and it's destroying things like fertility and our periods, and even now we're seeing it in menopause and perimenopause.
Yeah, I wish that guys were escaping the problem, but I had somebody on the show to talk about phthalates and penis size decreasing, taint size decreasing. And I was just like, whoa, that is scary. Fertility rates plummeting, birth rates plummeting for a whole host of reasons, not the least of which is fertility. It's really interesting. Like in some ways, we're living through this technological revolution, and it's amazing in 1,000 different ways. And there's no other time that I would rather be alive. And then I step back and I go, I've struggled profoundly with anxiety. And when I trace it back, so the biggest change I made in my anxiety by a country mile was my diet.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I changed my diet, I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize like how bad it had gotten from a generalized anxiety perspective, where I was just anxious at all times.
Yep.
At all times. And I remember thinking,
I got another book for you. It's called Eat Like a Girl. You will now know for your feminine body how to metabolically switch. I hope it helps.
what am I anxious about? I have no idea. It was very frustrating. And so tracking that down to diet then makes you a bit of a zealot to like explain to people, hey, like if you've got depression or anxiety, I could basically guarantee that some percentage, maybe like in my case, it's a huge percentage, but some percentage of that is going to be related to your diet
Agreed.
and your lifestyle, sleep, and all that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, there was a time where by default, you just couldn't get the problematic chemicals into you in any sort of significant fashion. And so there were so many things that we just, you didn't encounter. And so you didn't have to think about them.
When I was in my 20s, you literally never heard of a woman say she wasn't getting her period. Even in my 30s. And when I was in my 30s and everybody was trying to get pregnant, there was a handful of women that were struggling to get pregnant. So when we look at the trends that are happening, we can't say that it's a problem we can't say infertility is just a new issue. We have to say, what is the environment that we are living in that is destroying, but to your point, both women and men's hormones, that is making us weight loss resistant, that is giving us these incredible mood disorders, that's making PCOS the biggest female hormonal imbalance that we've got. What is the environment today? And that's where chemicals come up. That's where physical, emotional, and chemical, mental chemicals. We're exposed to more toxins. We're on our phones all day long, constantly stimulating our brain. We're physically not moving. We're not even getting natural light. We are so out of touch with how the human body was designed to be that all these things are showing up. And then we give them fancy labels. And then we say, oh, well, let's give them fancy treatments. And I even want to say that we do this in the biohacking world and the health world a little bit, which is why we have to make this simple. We've got to go back to our primal roots. We need sunlight. We need good quality food. Women need rest the week before their periods. We need to go times without eating. That is how the human body is designed. And when you look at, I got this the other day, I was remembering that 1987 is when I graduated high school. And my sister and I had what we thought was the coolest cord attached to we had our own phone line that we got to share.
Whoa.
That was like a big deal. And my dad went to Radio Shack and got us the longest cord possible so that we could walk from our bedroom on the phone all the way into the kitchen and it was like, what a great.
Kids today do not know how cool that was.
Right? It was super
I'm very
cool.
jealous.
It's super cool. So think about how far we've evolved from that. Okay. But our bodies haven't evolved from that. Our bodies are have the same primal needs. So every single one of these human conditions that are showing up, from the mental health to the physical health, the first question we need to ask is, what is the lifestyle we should be living to bring ourselves back in balance with ourselves? Because the modern world's not doing it. It's actually pulling us in the opposite way.
Yeah, it's brutal. Okay, so paint a picture for me. How do we are in this modern world, whether we want to be or not. So how do people start turning things around? How do they get things going in the right direction?
Yeah, and I know it's so depressing, right? I feel like you just hit that moment and you go, how are we going to do this as humans? I think that's I've hit that moment several times. Like, how is this going to map out for humans if we don't make some personal changes? And to your point, for starters, let's go back to the basics. So, of course, I'm going to leave with fasting. We've got to learn the art of fasting. So you might not be a 3-day water person, but could you be a 13-hour a day? I can train anybody to do that. We've seen it over and over again. We got to go back to the simplicity of food. Could you just focus on foods that don't have a label? Just
ask yourself, did man make this food or did the earth make this food? And can I go back to just the simple way of eating where I'm eating fruits, vegetables, meats if you eat meats. If you don't, then do the legumes and get away from the refined processed carbohydrates and chemicals. That's it. We're not counting macros. We're not even putting a CGM on you. Third thing, could I start to get natural light? Like, could I get up with the sunrise where there's red light? Red light's going to stimulate a different hormonal production in me. Could I get out in the middle of the day? We have serotonin receptor sites in our eyes and see full spectrum light without sunglasses on. Just 20 minutes. Could I just go for a walk and get some full sun in the middle of the day? You can wear a hat if you're worried about the getting too much on your skin. And at the end of the day, could I walk the dogs at sunset so my eyes see red light so that I can change my whole melatonin system and I can improve my serotonin system? And then how am I moving? Movement, cortisol is meant to make us move. So when I have a stressful moment, can I instead of sitting in a chair, could I just get up and go and move my body so that I'm using cortisol, much like we talked about using glucose with the squats? How often am I moving my body around? And then am I prioritizing sleep? Am I trying? I don't think we need to get 7 to 9 consistent hours of sleep. In fact, most of the experts I've spoken with don't feel like you need it all in one chunk.
What?
Yeah, that's a whole nother, I can go down that rabbit hole if you want. Yeah, but we need to at least be going to bed. We're designed to go to bed about 2 hours after the sun goes down. That's when our body starts to repair. So am I getting to bed at a fairly decent time, trying to get 7 hours and then waking up with the sunrise? These are primal basic needs of the human body that we're not even tending to. So let's just start there before we get into the conversation of this super biohack or this super supplement or this amazing medication. Let's just go back to our foundational roots and then let's see what happens. And my experience has been most everything clears out and people get their health back on track and health becomes fun again.
All right, let's go a little bit into the weeds on diet.
Yep.
So we're going to be doing the sleep, getting sun exposure. We're going to be moving around, all that. Diet is going to be a huge component of that.
Mm-hmm.
You've already talked about don't eat things with a label, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So don't eat processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll chalk that up already. I know you were a vegan for 10 years.
Yep.
You were not a vegan now.
I'm not a vegan now.
Do you have a take? Like, was it just not right for you? Not right in general? What's the...
Yeah. So I was a vegan when I had chronic fatigue syndrome. And prior to that, I was eating really, really like high, really bad diet. So it was a good shift. Anytime you shift the diet the first time, it's usually for the positive. It's usually a good shift and the body adapts well. The problem with veganism is you're not getting enough amino acids. And you need amino acids to make hormones, and you need it to make neurotransmitters, and you need it to build muscle. So if you're on a vegan diet, you have to make sure you supplement with an amino acid. That's the one supplement situation I'll say, yeah, you're going to need to go in that door. But the second problem with veganism is that most people elevate their carbs. So now they become so glucose challenged, and they become insulin resistant. So you're going to need to make sure you're pairing your carbs with a fat. You need to make sure you're getting enough protein. There's so much more chemistry that's needed in a vegan diet. So why it didn't work for me is I was just eating carbs. And so I was just gaining weight. I was just getting more and more insulin resistant. And I was not sleeping and I had brain fog. And I literally, thank God I listened to my own intuition. I just woke up one day and was like, this isn't working. I don't love this body I'm living in. Now, and I changed and I started to eat meat and I immediately dropped 20 pounds within a couple of months of eating meat.
Whoa.
So it was, and
That's shocking. Because the stuff you were eating, while it didn't have animal protein, it still was, I'm sure, high in sugar.
It was high in sugar. It was carbohydrate. I was just eating carbs
Right.
all day.
Yeah.
So it's just spiking all the time. So now I have met a lot of people who do vegan, vegetarian, and they're like, it's working for me. If it's working for you, amazing. Stay with that. It might be that for right now, that's what your body does. I encourage you to know what your glucose and insulin levels are. I encourage everybody to get a yearly measurement of hemoglobin A1C. which really tells us how much those red blood cells can carry oxygen to the tissues of our body. So,
And that's impacted by glucose. For those that don't know, it
Yeah.
gets gummed up and can really slow it down.
exactly. So is your
You want a
blood,
number below 5?
yeah, below 5.
Is that optimal?
4.5 is optimal.
Is 3.5 even better than 4.5?
The studies that I've seen is yes, if you want to slow aging down, if you get it closer into the under 4, 3.5.
Is there such a thing as too low?
That's a great question. I'm not sure. I'm sure there is. You can definitely take it to the extreme, but I've only seen 3.5 in one human that I've watched,
Whoa.
looked at thousands of blood tests. 3.5 is not easy to get to.
Got it.
Because you would
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Do you know what yours is?
I haven't had it checked in years, and
Yeah.
no, I don't remember the last time. But for the last 12 years of my life, probably, I've been very diligent. My fat was too low for a long time, but I haven't been eating In fact, God, I stopped eating carbohydrates in any regular amount 2 decades ago.
Do you eat fruit?
I do, but I treat it like a candy bar.
So you were doing meat and vegetables primarily.
I do eggs, meat, and vegetables primarily.
So it'd be interesting to see what your hemoglobin A1C is. But then fasting, if you're fasting 19 hours most day?
Yeah, so I tracked my intermittent fasting like it was a religion for 18 months. And over that 18-month period, it averaged 17 and a half hours a day, including Christmas Day, weekends, everything. So on the days during a normal weekday, I'm going to be pushing it into the 18, 19 hour range. 20 hours is definitely not unusual for me at all. So yeah.
So there's a perfect example. I'd be curious what your hemoglobin A1C is. My guess, if I had to guess right now, based off what you just told me, is it's probably about 4.5. Given everything you're doing. Now, what you're doing, most people can't do. So
I push back on that so hard. What I'm doing, most people don't do because they have a mental barrier that stops them from getting through the first click over. It's me with the cookie. And trust me, I'm empathetic. I get it. But yeah, most people.
Because you care about how you feel and how you think better than
that. And I've got a whole thing around discipline. So if it's like my goals make demands, and then I do whatever my goals demand. And at the time that I went low carb, I believed that for fat loss, because I was putting on fat, I was in my mid 20s, and all of a sudden I was putting on fat and I was eating less than I'd ever eaten before. But I thought that the game was to go low fat. And so the reason was I had upped my carb intake massively, trying to avoid fat, not realizing that now I'm just spiking my glucose all day. And so I was super confused. So I thought for longevity and for fat loss, I had to go low carb. Now, longevity is still a question mark. Who knows? I could drop dead tonight. But from being able to control my body composition, bulletproof. And I am very, I know just enough to be arrogant in my beliefs. And I am utterly convinced if somebody will only eat what I give them, meaning because I get it, their microbiome will scream out for things they shouldn't eat, and their discipline may be too low. But if they only eat what I eat, I am convinced with 100% certainty that I can control anybody's body composition. Period. End of story. Like, nobody escapes it. I don't care what disease you have, whatever. I am just convinced that I can do that.
I would 1,000% agree with you that if everybody did exactly what you did, that we would end chronic disease. Getting people to do what you do is, I'm not sure. I have a lot of admiration for what you're saying. I love this idea that your goals create demands. I love your intensity around discipline. I'm not sure we're going to get humans to that point ever.
Oh, I can agree with you. We won't. For better or worse, what I have found is the ideas that I live by are a filtering mechanism. And most people either think it's just crazy and stupid and why would you ever do that? Or they love it, but they can't implement. And they certainly can't maintain, which I feel this is where now I have ideas and I really want people to try them. But now all my arrogance around diet goes away. Like getting people to. So this company's called Impact Theory because I have a theory on how to impact people at scale. which is the ideas that I live by. First of all, they're timeless. They are not my ideas. They've been around forever. And if you can get these ideas into somebody when they're young,
Agreed.
then moving forward,
Agreed.
everything is not easy, but it's easier.
Yep.
But trying to get adults, I ballpark it at 2%. Everybody that's made it this far into this episode, congratulations, you're part of the 2%.
Yeah, right.
Like you'll take these ideas and you will do something. None of us are perfect, but you'll take these ideas and you'll deploy them. Unfortunately, 98% of the world, they might get as far as spiritual entertainment. And so they hear these empowering ideas and they're like, wow, that's amazing. I wish I could, basically. And they don't deploy them with any consistency.
Yep.
And so I became obsessed with how do you get the 98%? And that's why we make video games now.
I don't want you to waste money on supplements. Your body's a miracle. Buy the right ones. Sometimes you don't buy them at all. Check out this video so you don't waste money on your supplement. When we do the same probiotic over and over and over again, what we're doing is we're creating a monoculture in our gut.